Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Rozman dan bermula pada 1 Mei 2025 yang lalu, pelaksanaan penggunaan tong gas petroleum cecair LPG 14 kg berwarna ungu khusus untuk kegunaan komersial dan industri telah pun dikuatkuasakan di pasaran semasa. Inisiatif ini untuk makluman adalah sebahagian daripada usaha pentadbiran negara untuk menstrukturkan semula aliran subsidi. Akan tetapi, kesan tindakan itu ia telah menimbulkan pelbagai reaksi terutamanya kalangan peniaga kecil dan sederhana PKS akan tekanan kos operasi yang perlu diimbangi mereka. So, tentu kita akan bawakan penganalisis tamu untuk bantu kita fahami mengenai perkara ini adalah Datuk Nitesh Malani merupakan pengurusi Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Datuk kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami apabila kita ingin bercakap mengenai tong gas ungu ini. Mungkin kita pergi kepada pengenalan dan latar belakangnya dahulu. Mungkin Datuk boleh jelaskan sedikit latar belakang pengenalan tong gas ungu ini dan apakah antara rasional di sebalik pelaksanaannya?
Okey, terima kasih. Pelaksanaan akta atau enforcement tong gas ungu ini telah dilaksanakan pada tahun 2019 dengan akta dia pada 2021. Akan tetapi enforcement tidak diperkenalkan kepada golongan PKS. Baru-baru ini enforcement daripada kementerian telah menurun di bawah dan secara tiba-tiba enforcement ni dijalankan secara berleluasa. Ini agaknya menimbulkan rasa ketidakpuashatian di golongan PKS di bawah.
Baik, Datuk, dari sudut pandang Datuk, adakah pengusaha PKS ini benar-benar dimaklumkan lebih awal mengenai perubahan ini?
Pada pendapat saya, tiada engagement yang betul-betul dijalankan secara amnya kepada golongan PKS di bawah. Dan pada pendapat saya, ini adalah satu masalah yang paling besar. Sekarang kita nampak bila enforcement dijalankan secara tiba-tiba, akan tetapi tidak ada engagement yang patutnya dijalankan untuk memahamkan kenapa tindakan-tindakan atau enforcement memang adanya dari 2019 ke pengangkatan subsidi ke atas LPG kepada pengusaha atau commercial use. Akan tetapi commercial use bermakna siapa yang akan betul-betul affected by this move. Sesiapa yang menggunakan 42 kg ke atas. Peniaga-peniaga yang kecil seperti makcik-makcik yang menjual goreng pisang atau kari puff di pasar malam yang menggunakan kurang daripada 3 tong atau 42 kg, tiada masalah pun kepada akan tetapi atas tindakan ini. So restoran atau yang perniagaan yang medium atau yang lebih besar yang menggunakan lebih daripada 42 kg, ianya 3 tong ke atas, memang perlu register dengan PBKB melalui sistem Blast 2.0. So ini adalah satu inisiatif pada pendapat saya positif, akan tetapi information flow yang menurun di bawah tidak jelas secara langsungnya pada pendapat saya.
Penting itu untuk kita melihat bagaimana untuk pastikan information ataupun komunikasi itu jelas dan sampai ke peringkat bawah sehinggalah PMKS. Dan melihat kepada kesan kepada usahawan PKS ni, apa antara kesan langsung pengenalan tong gas ungu ini terhadap kos operasi harian usahawan kecil? Terutamanya dalam sektor makanan dan minuman, kalau kita lihat antara masak daripada kita menghantar barang makanan sehinggalah kita masak, kita menggunakan gas minyak itu. Pandangan Datuk?
Memang kesan dia akan menjadi lebih tinggi sikit. Bukan sahaja kos bahan mentah telah meningkat sebanyak 40 sehingga 60% pada tahun 2024 dan 2025 kita mendapati lebih banyak masalah daripada kos dari segi tarif yang telah tidak langsungnya diangkat oleh pihak Amerika Syarikat. So kita nampak dia kos bukan sahaja dari segi tong gas atau LPG, akan tetapi secara keseluruhannya kos telah meningkat sebanyak 60%. So kita memang meragui tindakan pihak kementerian yang boleh menjejaskan kos bahan-bahan ready to eat, especially peniaga-peniaga kedai mamak, kedai-kedai makan yang biasa, akan tetapi income level masyarakat tidak naik. So ini akan memperjejaskan apa kata kos hidup, kos sara hidup sebagainya.
Dan kita nak melihat sudah tentu perkara ini mungkin setengah kebimbangan ataupun ramai peniaga yang melaporkan kos modal meningkat hampir 3 kali ganda, dan kita lahu bukan senang atau mudah untuk mereka mencharge ataupun meletakkan harga yang mungkin pada pandangan pengguna mahal, tetapi ini adalah harga yang selari dengan kos operasi itu. So tentu ia akan memberi kesan langsung kepada margin keuntungan mereka, dan melihat kepada perkara situasi kos sara hidup, kebanyakannya kalau kita lihat gaji ketika ini tidak meningkat dengan banyak untuk menampung segala perbelanjaan yang semakin meningkat ini. Adakah Datuk melihat risiko sebahagian peniaga kecil terpaksa menutup perniagaan mereka akibat beban kos yang terlalu tinggi, dan kita belum tambah lagi dengan e-invoice, mungkin ada setengah ataupun kumpulan PMKS ini mungkin susah sikit untuk menerima dalam apabila kita cakap mengenai kos ataupun apa segala perkara yang menuntut peniaga-peniaga kecil ini untuk mengeluarkan lebih banyak kos operasi mereka?
Memang pandangan saya adalah kesemua langkah-langkah yang sedang dijalankan oleh kerajaan memang tidak selaras dengan apa yang dikendaki oleh masyarakat. Amnya atau khususnya pihak PKS. Pihak PKS, kerajaan perlulah membantu atau membagi insentif yang diperlukan. Memang dari segi enforcement atau dari segi undang-undang perlu. Malaysia sebagai negara ketiga terbesar pengeluar LPG, patutnya harga kos patutnya ditampung oleh pihak kerajaan dari segi subsidi yang boleh diberikan bukan sahaja kepada pengguna rumah, akan tetapi kepada pengusaha atau kedai-kedai makanan atau komersial yang dikatakan. Pada pendapat saya dari segi 42 kg atau 3 tank, bolehlah kerajaan memberi lebih insentif kepada pengusaha PKS, nombor satu. Nombor dua, memperlebihkan apa kata communication dari segi awareness atau lebih banyak interaksi dengan pihak-pihak persatuan peniaga atau dari segi terdapat pelbagai golongan masyarakat ni yang ada network di bawah. Memang dia ada pasar malam, persatuan pasar malam. So dari segi ini, pihak-pihak akan diberikan satu jangka masa yang boleh apa kata benda-benda ni boleh diplan. Dia tidak secara all of a sudden. So pada pendapat saya, memang patut dari segi awareness diberikan dengan lebih mendalam lagi, akan tetapi most of this movement has to be done in a apa kata in a more corrective way, in a more planned manner. Bila kita membuat enforcement, saya mendapat tahu yang enforcement kita PKS ada sampai Oktober 31 untuk comply kepada lesen di bawah PBKB. Perlulah jelas dan nyata. Akan tetapi kalau enforcement dikeluarkan and peniaga-peniaga tidak boleh cover kos yang akan melonjak secara tremendously, saya agree with you that kebanyakan pengusaha especially di luar bandar akan gulung tikar tidak lama lagi.
Datuk, mungkin akhir sekali soalan saya berbakikan kurang daripada satu. Mungkin boleh kongsikan bagaimana untuk bergerak ke hadapan persediaan PMKS peniaga kecil itu sendiri dalam menghadapi ataupun kita lihat ruang yang diberi peluang kepada peniaga-peniaga kecil untuk mematuhi sehinggalah bulan Oktober ini. Jadi kalau kita tahu ini bukan hanya persediaan sehingga bulan Oktober, tetapi selepas itu juga apa yang perlu dilakukan, langkah mitigasi ataupun solusi penyelesaian jangka panjang yang boleh dilakukan oleh PMKS small player ini, Datuk.
Okey, saya menyuruh pihak PKS atau PMKS untuk first comply dengan dari segi pelesenan yang perlu diadakan. Saya yakin pihak kerajaan akan mendengar rayuan-rayuan daripada pihak PMKS atau masyarakat secara amnya. Akan tetapi dari segi pengimbanan law yang telah pun diaktakan pada tahun 2021 lagi adalah satu message yang agak clear that penampungan subsidi ini tidak boleh dipanjangkan secara lamanya. So pada pendapat saya pihak PMKS perlulah comply to the current requirement yang ada, minta tolong untuk register dalam sistem BLES 2.0 untuk lesen dulu, and pihak kami dengan rakan-rakan yang lain daripada persatuan perniagaan yang lain akan membangkitkan isu-isu ini kepada pihak kementerian dengan menteri sendiri untuk perhaps bagi satu jangka masa yang lebih munasabah di mana peniaga-peniaga boleh plan dari segi harga barangan, bukan saja kos membuat makanan akan tetapi gas menjadi satu sumber yang amat penting untuk memasak. Bila kita membuat teh tarik pun kita perlu gas, atau buat nasi lemak pun kita perlukan gas. So itu gas LPG adalah satu bahan mentah atau essential yang memang very very important untuk menjalankan perniagaan, especially perniagaan makanan.
Baik, ini adalah antara perkara komponen utama yang perlu kita teliti apa yang telah dikongsikan oleh Datuk Nites. Sudah tentu bergerak ke hadapan, banyak langkah ataupun pendekatan yang proaktif perlu kita teliti agar pelaksanaan ini tidak akan menjejaskan peniaga-peniaga pihak industri, terutamanya kumpulan kita boleh cakap small stakeholder, termasuk juga dengan kita berharap ia tidak akan menjejaskan kos sara hidup rakyat itu sendiri. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Datuk Nites Malani, merupakan pengurusi Yayasan Usaha Malaysia, dan setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.com dan di semua platform digital Astro AWANI. Cryptocurrency has gone from a niche internet experiment to a global conversation, and yet for many people it still feels like a mystery today. I'm here to break it down, simple terms, what crypto is, how it works, and why it matters. All the heart of it all is blockchain, a technology that's not just powering digital currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also reshaping how we think about trust, ownership, and value in the digital age. We'll talk about how crypto functions, what gives its value, and whether it's really the future of money or something else entirely. And most importantly, we'll separate the facts from the hype so viewers can walk away with a clear, grounded understanding of this fast-moving space. And for that, I welcome you, Aaron Tong, APAC General Manager of Luno. Again, I want to say thank you very much, Aaron, for joining me again. In simple terms, maybe you can share with us, what is blockchain and why is it considered to revolutionary beyond cryptocurrency?
Thanks for having me. Good morning. So blockchain is a really interesting way to store data. So if you imagine just a simple analogy of many years ago, our parents, our grandparents, they used to use buku 35 to record down transactions. Now, blockchain is actually a modern way of recording transactions. It allows many people from across the world to actually collaborate together on a simple piece of information or data. So it's very revolutionary because it allows privacy and it also allows certain levels of programming. So for example, you can decide what access is given to that data or how that data is given and so on. So I would say that blockchain is primarily used in financial transactions today. So for example, digital assets and cryptocurrencies and so on. However, blockchain has also other use cases in other fields.
And many people hear blockchain and think it's automatically secure. What are the real vulnerabilities of blockchain systems, Aaron?
So blockchain it's like any other piece of programming. It's like any other piece of code. The only difference between blockchain and perhaps a program that you use on your computer is typically the most famous blockchains. Their code is published openly for anyone to have a look at. So in that sense, people can actually look at the code and they can see that whether that code has anything malicious, whether there's anything that's a backdoor or vulnerability or so on. However, I must say that in smaller projects, for example, blockchains that are not mature, there may be some level of risk when it comes to programming the codes. If the programmers were not careful enough, then you may actually have blockchains where it is not as secure as, say, something that is very popularly used, for example, Ethereum or Bitcoin.
How can we identify a very amateur systems for that we can also establish this is the amateur blockchain technology system?
I think it comes down to reputation. So, for example, the most popular blockchains are things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. These are very household names. And again, all their code is published openly. So actually, there's many years of actually programmers and security experts looking at the code and making sure that there's no vulnerabilities. So I would say it's a bit of a trust and reputation game here. If you're using blockchain, if you're building things on blockchain, the simplest, most secure way is of course to use the very well, not traditional, but to use the very reputable ones. For example, Ethereum and Solana.
Can blockchain technology scale to support billions of transactions like the global payment systems or government records? Or are we still a long way off?
We're quite early at the game at this point of time. So if you look at, for example, something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, their transactions per second may be 7 transactions or maybe 15 transactions per second. So you imagine comparing to something like Visa, which processes thousands and thousands of transactions per second. So in that sense, we're a little bit early. However, if you look at the high-performing blockchains, the newer blockchains, for example, many of these are promising that they can handle thousands of transactions as well. So I think the potential is there at the moment. As to whether we will be able to get there, I think that's a matter of time.
And talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, we want to understand how it actually works from transaction to confirmations. Can you walk us through what happens behind the scene, probably pre-pandemic COVID-19, because I think things were different and the technology, digital, didn't grow as fast as now. Maybe you can share with us, Aaron.
Yeah. So whenever you do a transaction on a public blockchain, so I'll take example, for example, Bitcoin. When you do a transaction on Bitcoin, what you're actually doing is you are saying to all the people who use Bitcoin in the world, they're connected via the internet. Yeah. So you are broadcasting your transaction. So for example, if I want to send you, say 0.1 Bitcoin, what I am doing is I'm actually broadcasting that transaction to all the thousands and thousands of people who run Bitcoin on the internet. Now, these people, these thousands and thousands of people, they are computers, they're people behind computers. These computers will actually look at the transaction that I broadcasted. So I said that I want to send you 0.1 Bitcoin. So all the computers will try to validate that transaction. Number one, they'll look at, do I really have that amount of Bitcoin to send? And then they'll look at, does my transaction look suspicious or does it look legitimate? Now, if everyone agrees that my transaction looks legitimate, and they'll use some clever mathematical formulas to prove that, and then that 0.1 Bitcoin will be transferred from my wallet to your wallet.
Okay, that is the whole process. Maybe for the new one beginner who have said, who's watching this right now, probably we can hear directly guidance from Aaron. Probably this is one of the root questions. What gives cryptocurrencies value, especially if they aren't backed by any physical asset or government guarantee? And taking a look at some countries, they are banning this crypto asset.
Right. I want to go back to the concept of supply and demand. So anything that has, for example, a certain amount of supply and then a certain amount of demand, the market will find a reasonable price for that. So cryptocurrencies, for example, Bitcoin, they're starting to grow very much in demand. So for example, why are people interested in Bitcoin? Companies, for example, MicroStrategy, they are investing in Bitcoin. And there are even governments, for example, the government of Pakistan or the government of the United States, they're saying that they want to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And then there are even of course, there are individuals like myself who are also very interested to hold Bitcoin. So people are interested to hold Bitcoin because it has some characteristics of what we would call a digital gold. Digital gold in the sense that it is not the supply of it, it is not easily inflated. There's only a certain amount of Bitcoin available. And then number two, Bitcoin can actually be moved, can actually be moved in an easy way on the internet. So for example, if I wanted to send Bitcoin from myself to anywhere across the world, it would take me less than, say, 1 hour to move that. And you can imagine if, say, I want to move a big amount of gold from myself to somewhere across the world, that's going to take a lot more energy, that's going to take a lot more time. So there's an increasing amount of demand for Bitcoin right now around the world, and that is actually what is driving its price up.
And you mentioned that the Bitcoin probably characteristic is more like a digital gold, but can they really replace fiat currencies?
I would say the intention, the original intention of Bitcoin, it was designed as what we call peer-to-peer cash. So basically a replacement for people making transactions. For example, many people say that I want to use my Bitcoin to buy coffee, or I want to use my Bitcoin to say buy a car or so on. However, I think over time we have seen that Bitcoin has become, today at least, more of an investment asset. So people are buying it because they want to grow their holdings, they want to grow their portfolios, and that applies to individuals, companies, and governments, and so on. In terms of whether cryptocurrency itself will actually be able to replace fiat currencies or the normal currencies that we use on a daily basis, I would say that it is still very, very early and is very, very unpredictable. What I will say is that central banks, governments, and so on, they have actually learned from the interesting parts of cryptocurrencies, digital assets. And, many people, many governments are experimenting with their own digital currencies. They're experimenting with hybrid systems and so on. So I don't think it's going to be one or the other, but I think over time, governments, countries, and so on, they're going to learn from the interesting parts of crypto, and then they're also going to apply that to their national systems.
And additional for a category for someone completely new to crypto as well, they should understand first the technology or the risk.
I'm going to go out on the limb and say understand the risk first. And the reason why I say understand the risk first is because there's so many, I would say, investment scams or irresponsible people out there. They're trying to tell people, oh, you can get rich with this, you can get rich with that. And at the end of the day, crypto digital assets, they are just another form of investment and technology. So there's potential for gains, there's potential for loss. So I would rather that everyone just be aware of the risk first. However, once you are aware of the risks of investing, then you can also move on to the interesting technological aspects of cryptocurrencies and digital assets, which are very, very amazing.
And that is the Crypto 101 lessons, the fundamental of cryptocurrency with Aaron Tong, APAC General Manager of Luno. Again, I want to say thank you very much for this insightful sharing, and we will feature in astro.com across all social media platforms. And stay tuned with us as we'll be taking a short break and we'll be right back.
Hayati semangat pengorbanan dan keindahan Idul Adha.
Membicarakan perihal ibadat dan berita haji.
Ilmu-ilmu yang mana kita dapat tu insya-Allah kita kongsi-kongsikan. Peranan ibu bapa untuk mendedahkan tentang umrah dan haji ini sangat-sangat penting.
Ikuti perkongsian ilmu dalam Bual Bicara Santai.
Hari kasih sayang, pengorbanan dan juga keinsafan yang disatukan.
Situasi ini sebiji ketika haji. Nanti bila buat ibadah haji, mudahlah.
Cuaca yang sangat panas.
Apa benda saya buat semua saya seronok je.
Saya memang rasa macam terapuk.
Drama penuh tauladan dan inspirasi yang menyentuh jiwa.
Abang ingin sekali bisa pergi naik haji bersama keluarga.
Nasib baik Mak hidup. Mak ada kawan. Nasibnya kena lembut, kena lunak.
Lagu-lagu rock banyak lagi unsur-unsur Islamik.
Sambut Aidiladha dengan penuh keinsafan dan kebersamaan.
Salam Aidiladha. Indahnya lain macam.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda Awani Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro Awani.
5 lelaki penghantar makanan didakwa di Mahkamah Magistrate Bangi atas tuduhan membunuh seorang pemandu kereta lelaki dalam satu kejadian.
4 sungai di sekitar kawasan perindustrian Pasir Gudang di Johor termasuk Sungai Kim Kim didapati tercemar dan berada pada tahap yang membimbangkan. Kerajaan sudah mulakan inisiatif untuk menggantikan kenderaan operasinya kepada kenderaan elektrik EV dalam skala kecil terlebih dahulu.
All right, welcome back to Niaga Awani. We're going to take a look at creative industry and digital platform. With the digital economy in Southeast Asia projected to reach $600 billion America by 2030. And definitely want to see how all our digital platforms reshaping the way creative industry think. And moving forward, I welcome you. Our guest ready on the line is Ahmad Azwar Zainuddin, the CEO of Satu Kreatif. Again, I say thank you very much. Firstly, we're going to start with the intersection of creativity and technology. We can see that one of the article discusses how creative technologies in Kuala Lumpur have transformed an abandoned colonial building into a multimedia storytelling hub. Could you elaborate on how such projects exemplify the fusion of creativity and technology in Southeast Asia?
Thank you so much, Nina, for having me. If we look at the project that I mentioned in the article with regards to technologies using projection mapping to interact with heritage building, this is actually a good example of how technology bring new light into the rich cultural heritage that we have in Kuala Lumpur, of course, across Southeast Asia. So on that, it draws in new audiences, especially among the youth who may not, I guess, on the day-to-day life, think about these heritage cultures that we have. So having this, it's reintroducing the old through using adapting technologies that are, I guess, expanding and growing right now. Yeah.
And talking about cultural heritage and modern innovations, such as in Kuching, an indie game studio is developing an augmented reality mobile game inspired by traditional hand tattooing. How do initiatives like this balance the preservation of cultural heritage with the adoptions of modern technology?
Okay. This example in Kuching is an entrepreneur that we actually work with. So looking at them, what they did was adopting the tattoo making that is so rich especially in Sabah and Sarawak. And by introducing them in the game mode, they are, again, as I mentioned earlier, attract new audience to a heritage that may have been lost. A lot of culture actually would be lost if we do not practice them on a day-to-day basis. But looking at the modern day, how people interact with things, whether it is through social media, whether it's through games, whether it's through e-commerce, this is where it brings new life into cultural heritage. We have so much. And this is where the article discussed that, rather than copying or adapting, we have centuries old tradition in Malaysia or across Southeast Asia that can be brought forward as a new product that we can bring to the world. So in this instance, that's one example, but we can also look at adoption of this through museums, through content like animations, and this shines light into what we already have, our true identity, sense of pride. And I think the project that we have, that these startups have in Sarawak, in Kuching in particular, is a good example of how blending creativity and technology can bring new sense of pride, new revenue models, and I guess new audience as well in this context.
Let's take a look at our neighbouring country. With Indonesia's creative economy contributed approximately $82 billion to its GDP in 2022 alone. What factors are driving such significant economic contributions from the creative sector in Southeast Asia?
Looking at Indonesia is really interesting because when we look at our neighbor, they have a deep appreciation of the culture. You look, for instance, it's not abnormal that people are wearing batik in a modern way, and it's very much a bottom-up approach. And through this, their sense of identity, this unity of, I guess, voice and culture is something that brands the country. So if people are looking at Indonesia, right, it's not just the old heritage, but also the new culture, the new creative economy is also at the forefront because they are in touch with their roots. I think in Malaysia, we are also doing something similar, but I guess it needs to be celebrated, it needs to be supported. And this is where the article looked into policy development, looking at education aspect of both the supply and demand side. And something that we can emulate is, of course, a lot of the industries, creative industries in Indonesia, but also something to draw upon Indonesia. And of course, in the region is we do have a shared cultural roots, right? I think if we look at Brunei, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, part of Thailand as well. And looking at this, looking at Southeast Asia as a huge market with 650 million population, growing middle class, young population, I think there's a lot of potential for the creative economy to come forward. And this needs to be nurtured and supported because this is where our unfair advantage of the region that we have, because no one can copy Southeast Asia. We are Southeast Asia. And through supporting the technologies, the creative practitioners, we are able to bring this forward in a way where we have our own identity rather than copying the West or copying other parts of the world.
Leveraging in ASEAN's trend as if we come together and half of the population is young, probably we can say the youngsters have more creative ideas. And despite the growth as well, the challenges like undervaluations of the creative sector and skill gaps, what strategies could be implemented to address these systemic issues and support and boost creators in the digital age?
I think looking at this, there needs to be more attention in supporting the creative practitioner beyond just, for example, a narrow angle of tourism. So looking at the creative sector, it blends very well with technology, it blends very well with culture. And I think on this front, there needs to be more engagement, more understanding from the creative practitioner side, from the technology side, from the policymakers, from the support systems, from the universities. And these, I think, would enable us to have a frank view of two-way view as well of how we can develop the sector. That's one of them. Of course, the other part is a lot of education needs to happen. We need to do a lot of campaigns, for instance, on awareness, on promoting the culture, looking at it beyond the narrow lens, but celebrating how creativity is key to innovation. Creativity is key, for instance, for even we look at e-commerce, look at branding, look at promoting our product. And this stems from our strong roots, from our identity. We look at countries like Korea, for instance. They have been very successful in a very short period of time. Why? Because they acknowledge the importance of creativity within the broader economy of the country.
And we're going to pull in by saying support factor. Sometimes we need to put on the line is the policy. And many creators lack the legal literacy to protect their work. What measures can be taken to improve intellectual property right awareness and enforcement among creatives? Because we're saying we're in a digital era, so probably awareness, can we contribute through digital as well?
Yeah, I love that, Nina, because looking at this, a lot of policies needs to be simplified, needs to be translated So looking at this, we can't be sitting high and mighty, and this is how it is. You have to comply. We are the gatekeepers, but really listening to how we can make this simpler. Can we adopt ways where this legal approach can be simpler? There are a lot of technologies that are emerging, such as AI and all that, that perhaps can be adopted, but taking a more, how do I put this, human lens, human-centered approach, because what we're looking at is not competing or gatekeepers or us against them, but we are actually looking at promoting a culture which is ours to begin with, right? And promoting them, whether it is local, whether it's the example that we had in Kuching or in Malaysia or ASEAN. I think we should look at it as we are in a broader context, one people, right? And it deserves attention, and we should not just focus on one sector. We look at a lot of countries, again, UK, for instance, the creative economy is one of the major sector there, right? Why can't the same be in Malaysia? But it starts, of course, bottom up, human-centered. Really, a lot of listening needs to happen in order for us to, I guess, overcome challenges such as understanding legal framework, looking at cross borders, and so on.
And we hope for the creative platform and also Southeast Asia can leverage on this strength and this benefit, so all of us can come together and probably create a better future, digital future with creativity as a catalyst. Again, I say thank you very much to our guest, Ahmad Azhar Zainuddin, the CEO of Satu Kreatif, and definitely all of our discussion here will be featured in astrawani.com. Baik, kita akan teruskan dengan perkembangan ringgit setakat pagi ini lebih kurang jam 9.39, hampir 9.40 pada 4 Jun 2025. Melihat kepada prestasi nilai ringgit, kalau kita lihat, sebelum saya kongsikan, setakat pagi ini, prestasi waktu ditutup semalam, ia bertutup tinggi berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat pada Selasa. Apabila kalangan peserta pasaran kekal berhati-hati menjelang pertemuan yang dijangka antara Presiden Amerika Syarikat Donald Trump dan Presiden China Xi Jinping minggu ini, kata seorang penganalisis. Dan pada 6 petang, mata wang tempatan itu meningkat sedikit kepada 4.2425 berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat daripada 4.2530 ketika ditutup pada Jumaat. Dan rakan kongsi pengurusan SPI Asset Management Steven Ines berkata, peserta pasaran kini mengambil pendekatan tunggu dan lihat menjelang mesyuarat Trump-Xi yang dilihat berpotensi menjadi faktor utama risiko pasaran untuk sepanjang minggu ini. Dan untuk kita meneliti bagaimanakah prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding USD setakat pagi ini, ia berada pada 4.2425 dan pergerakan ataupun trend nilai ringgit berbanding USD naik turun yang amat ketara. Melihat range ataupun pergerakan yang telah direkodkan dalam tempoh 7 hari, nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding USD berada pada tahap 4.2211. Antara kedudukan yang terbaik dan antara kedudukan yang paling lemah telah direkodkan dalam tempoh seminggu oleh ringgit adalah 4.2590. Dan ini juga merupakan antara range ataupun pergerakan nilai ringgit sepanjang minggu ini sehinggalah pagi ini. Saya akan beralih kepada pasaran tempatan di mana Bursa Malaysia telah ditutup rendah bagi hari dagangan ke-6 berturut-turut pada Selasa. Meskipun kenaikan pada sesi awal ekoran tekanan jualan di pasaran pesat membangun serantau berikutan kebimbangan terhadap konflik tarif yang berterusan, kata seorang penganalisis. Pada 5 petang, FTSE Bursa Malaysia KLCI susut 5.10 mata atau 0.33% kepada 1,503.25 daripada paras 1,508.35 pada Jumaat minggu lepas. Baik, saya akan beralih kepada prestasi pasaran bursa tempatan setakat jam 9.26 pagi ini. Ia berada pada 1,502.10. Penurunan sebanyak 0.08% atau bersamaan dengan 1.15 setakat pagi 4 Jun ini. Pergerakan Bursa Malaysia sehinggalah Rabu pagi, kita dapat saksikan daripada Rabu minggu lepas, sebenarnya trend pergerakan mengalami trend menurun dalam tempoh seminggu daripada Rabu minggu lepas hinggalah Rabu pagi ini. Dan kita lihat range bermula pada 1,527.73 dan daripada paras yang tertinggi telah direkodkan pada Rabu minggu lepas, perlahan-lahan menurun sehinggalah ia mencapai antara tahap yang terendah pada 1,500.65. Dan ini adalah prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia dan Bursa Malaysia yang kami selalu bawakan daripada Isnin hingga Jumaat. Baik, kami akan beralih kepada sesi discussion di mana jawatan kuasa bersama khas JBK Kongres Kesatuan Sekerja Malaysia M2UC seharusnya memberi fokus sepenuhnya kepada isu pemilihan kepimpinan kesatuan itu. M2UC bahagian Sarawak pada masa sama menegaskan supaya JBK tersebut menghentikan sebarang kenyataan yang boleh mencetuskan kekeliruan dalam kalangan pekerja serta pihak berkepentingan. Ini kerana tegasnya JBK yang dilantik oleh mahkamah telah diberi mandat khusus untuk mengadakan pemilihan semula kepimpinan dalam tempoh 3 bulan. Malangnya pemilihan yang sepatutnya dilakukan pada Mei 2025 telah ditangguhkan sehingga Ogos depan menyebabkan MTUC kehilangan peluang untuk menghantar wakil ke Persidangan Buruh Antarabangsa ILC. Justru MTUC bahagian Sarawak menyeru semua pihak dalam MTUC agar menumpukan sepenuhnya kepada pelaksanaan pemilihan semula kepimpinan bagi menamatkan krisis ini. Katanya MTUC mesti kembali berfungsi sebagai organisasi pekerja yang dihormati dan kredibel dalam memperjuangkan hak pekerja. Keutamaan harus diberikan kepada ketulusan, keadilan dan penyelesaian segera bagi memastikan MTUC kembali berfungsi sebagai badan yang memperjuangkan hak pekerja secara efektif. Baik, kita bersama dengan tetamu dalam talian ketika ini adalah Datuk Muhammad Syafi Mahmud, Presiden Majlis Rangkaian Kesatuan Sekerja Antarabangsa Malaysia Uni Malaysia Labour Centre Uni MLC. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Datuk kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Pertama sekali penting untuk kita melihat antara hak-hak ataupun kesejahteraan pekerja kerana mereka ni adalah setiap individu dan setiap kumpulan organisasi mereka antara penyumbang ekonomi. Jadi mungkin boleh kongsikan pertama sekali, sejauh manakah kenyataan yang dikeluarkan oleh MTUC yang boleh dianggap relevan dan mewakili suara pekerja sedangkan pemilihan kepimpinan tertinggi kesatuan itu masih belum dijalankan. Mungkin boleh kongsikan Datuk.
Okey, terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada AWANI kerana sudi menjemput saya secara online pagi ini. Pada keseluruhan kalau saya nak bagi komen atas sifat Presiden Uni MLC dan juga mantan timbalan Presiden MTUC lah ya. Pada saya jawatan kuasa yang telah ditubuhkan oleh mahkamah yang dipanggil sebagai jawatan kuasa bersama khas MTUC ini, fungsi dia satu saja. Tumpukan keseluruhan waktu yang ada bagi satu objektif, iaitu pemilihan saja. Jadi pemilihan ini seharusnya telah dibuat pada bulan Mei, tetapi atas sebab-sebab tertentu dibawa sampai bulan Ogos 2025. Tetapi pengundian itu masih belum jalan kerana tarikh yang ditetapkan itu 2 dan 3 hari bulan Ogos mengikut daripada kenyataan yang ada. Apa yang penting sekarang ni kita, jawatan kuasa yang telah dilantik. Jawatan kuasa maknanya bukan satu orang ya, beberapa orang. Dia bukan seorang, beberapa orang yang telah dilantik mesti mempunyai kata sepakat untuk mencari pendekatan yang berhemah supaya pemilihan ini dapat dijalankan dengan segera supaya urus takbir MTUC ini boleh dipulihkan dan diserah kuasa kepada mereka yang telah dipilih. Seterusnya, apa yang saya lihat pada hari ini, Majlis Am yang sepatutnya dipanggil oleh MTUC ataupun jawatan kuasa bersama tidak dibuat. Majlis Am ini adalah satu badan yang merangkumi semua ahli-ahli kesatuan. Kita harus memberi pendedahan kepada mereka. Apakah keputusan yang telah dibuat oleh mahkamah dan juga seterusnya. Jadi mereka perlu diberi kefahaman supaya mereka boleh tahu apa yang akan berlaku pada MTUC akan datang. Apa yang boleh dan apa yang tak boleh. Jadi sekarang ini nampaknya jawatan kuasa ini tersasar jalan. Dan sama ada sadar atau tak sadar atau kurang sadar, pemilihan ini nampak macam tidak begitu penting. Saya difahamkan 12 hari bulan ini tarikh tutup untuk membuat pemilihan. Sedangkan kesatuan semua ni tahu melalui sekela atau melalui perkeliling saja. Mereka perlu dipanggil dalam satu mesyuarat. Sama ada kesatuan yang berfaedah ataupun sebaliknya, kita mesti mendedahkan satu persatu apakah yang telah diputuskan supaya pendedahan ini boleh mengambil kira tidak akan berlaku salah laku untuk akan datang. Dengan tidak memberi pendedahan kepada ahli majlis am ataupun General Council ini menjadi satu faktor kelemahan yang ada dalam jawatan kuasa ini. Kerana jawatan kuasa ini kena tumpukan sepenuhnya menghabiskan pemilihan yang sepatutnya diadakan. Selagi pemilihan ini tidak dibuat, status jawatankuasa ini tergantung. Dia hanya skop dia kecil saja. Bukan mewakili mesyuarat di sana ataupun di sini. Saya rasa bukan itu. Mahkamah telah pun memberi satu hala tuju yang konkret dan konstruktif supaya tumpukan. Contohnya kita kira berapa banyak kesatuan yang bergabung dengan kita, berapa banyak kesatuan yang ada bayar yuran, yang tak bayar yuran, sama ada kepimpinan itu sudah ditukar atau tidak dalam kesatuan, alamat-alamat dia supaya pemilihan akan datang itu dapat dibuat secara sepenuh hati dan keputusan itu menjadi muktamad dan MTUC boleh berjalan seperti biasa untuk masa 3 tahun ke datang.
Okey. Datuk, mungkin saya nak kongsikan melihat kepada proses pemilihan ini, bagaimana MTUC dapat mendakwa mewakili kepentingan pekerja secara sah dan menyeluruh jika proses pemilihan dalaman masih belum diselesaikan. Dan itu satu soalan. Dan keduanya, Datuk, jika benar MTUC mendakwa mewakili suara pekerja Malaysia, bagaimana pula dengan pandangan kesatuan-kesatuan lain yang mungkin tidak bersetuju dengan tindakan MTUC yang membuat laporan terus kepada ILO tanpa rundingan menyeluruh dalam negara?
Beginilah saya bercakap ni, kita mesti jaga credibility kita dulu. Maruah pekerja di Malaysia ni pada hari ini berada di satu tahap yang paling boleh kita banggakan. Bukan saya bercakap kerana kita ni hebat, tidak. Kombinasi daripada YB Menteri Sumber Manusia kita dengan jabatan-jabatan tertentu dalam kesuma dengan kesatuan begitu akrab. Jadi kita mesti angkat martabat kita bukan saja di peringkat nasional, malahan di peringkat antarabangsa. Itu satu perkara yang penting. Yang kedua, kalau kita lihat status MTUC pada hari ini, dia terhad dalam skop ini, bermakna dia hanya kena buat pemilihan. Tanpa pemilihan itu dibuat dengan jawatankuasa baru, dia tak boleh bergerak. Macam mana mungkin dia boleh bergerak sedangkan dia tidak ada presiden, dia tidak ada setiausaha agung, dia tidak ada majlis lain-lain naik presiden dan sebagainya, dia tidak ada. Dia cuma ada seorang saja dan dibantu oleh 4 atau 5 orang yang dipanggil sebagai jawatankuasa khas. Jawatankuasa khas ni mandat dia kecil. Bukan mana mandat dia besar, dia boleh buat apa dia nak. Itu tidak betul sama sekali. Tak boleh. Dia hanya memberi skop itu saja. Tapi kalau sekarang ini, apa yang Puan kata tadi, dia buat aduan, ada yang buat aduan dekat ILO, ini lagi nampak tak cerdik lah. Kalau orang yang matang dan juga orang yang mempunyai pemikiran yang waras bisa kata, minta maaf saya gunakan perkataan itu, yang mempunyai ilmu dalam kesatuan sekerja, perlu apa kita buat laporan kepada ILO? Bukan ada salah guna dibuat oleh kerajaan. Hari ini yang kita tak boleh wakil ni bukan pasal kerajaan. Kerajaan mana ada campur tangan? Tak ada. Menteri pun tak campur tangan. PMX pun tak campur tangan. Yang ada masalah MTUC itu sendiri. Bila ada masalah kita sendiri, kita menunding jari ke orang lain, buat apa?
Baik.
Kalau kita mengadu kepada ILO, buat apa? Itu bukan jalan keluar yang terbaik pada saya. Sebab apa yang berlaku sekarang ini masalah dalaman. Bukannya masalah luaran. Kami dalam Uni MSc dan juga semua gabungan happy. Kita rasa begitu besar hati dengan apa yang berlaku dengan kerajaan pada hari ini. Jadi membuat aduan ke ILO itu satu perkara yang tidak betul lah.
Baik. Dan kita harap masalah dalaman, kestabilan dalaman ini dapat diselesaikan dengan cepat. Kerana ini bukan masalah utama. Masalah utama adalah bagaimana Malaysia, seluruh warga Malaysia yang dapat menuntut hak dan juga kesejahteraan pekerja bukan di peringkat nasional tapi sehinggalah di pentas global. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Datuk Muhammad Syafi Mamal, merupakan Presiden Majlis Rangkaian Kesatuan Sekerja Antarabangsa Malaysia, Uni Malaysia Labour Centre, Uni MLC, dan setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.awani.com dan di semua platform digital Astro Awani. US stock indexes closed higher on Tuesday, helped by gains in Nvidia and other chip makers as investors awaited possible negotiations between the United States and its trading partners for more clarity on Washington's tariffs plan. President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping are set to speak this week. The White House said on Monday, days after Trump accused China of violating a Geneva agreement to roll back tariffs and trade restrictions.
Beijing said it would safeguard its interests and that the accusation was groundless. According to a draft letter to negotiating partners seen by Reuters, the Trump administration wants countries to provide their best offer on trade negotiations by Wednesday as officials seek to accelerate talks with multiple partners ahead of a self-imposed deadline in just 5 weeks. In May, a softening of Trump's harsh trade stance allowed a recovery in risky assets, with the benchmark S&P 500 and the tech-heavy Nasdaq posting their biggest monthly percentage gain since November 2023.
Factory orders down after a couple months of strong gains. I do think that there's a lot of noise in this kind of import-export manufacturing data because of the tariffs, the rollout, the way they've been implemented, businesses trying to kind of deal with this big change on the fly. So you saw a big rush of imports, people trying to order stuff ahead of time, build inventory just to prepare for whatever might come next because there was so much uncertainty. Now you're seeing a little bit of deflation. We've seen the tariffs walk back. At least we have this 90-day pause. And so you see this downtick in factory orders. I mean, ultimately, manufacturing is not a very big part of the economy, but I do think that it's emblematic of the kind of uncertainty and volatility that has gripped that sector amid this tariff tantrum and tariff uncertainty, and likely will continue to. We have this 90-day pause, but June, July, I would expect to be in a similar boat where you have very noisy data and probably ultimately not a lot of signal to be taken from it, except that maybe companies have done enough inventory building and are kind of pulling their foot off the gas at this point.
The S&P 500 gained 34.43 points, or 0.58%, to end at 5,970.37 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 156.34 points, or 0.81%, to 19,398.96. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 214.16 points, or 0.51%, to 42,519.64.
All right, now let's break down what's happening in the US market. We're going to start for one of the biggest sectors within the S&P 500, which every sector and industry represent the market cap. For Microsoft, it's up by 0.22%, and one of the biggest sectors within the semiconductor is Nvidia, up by 2.79%. But we can see the opposite performance for Google is down by 1.69%, and the latest update on Alphabet's Google has hired Donald Verrilli Jr., the U.S. Solicitor General during the Barack Obama administration, to appeal a judge ruling that the tech titan has an unlawful monopoly in online search. Google confirmed on Tuesday. Verrilli hires is a key first step in Google's legal fight to undo the ruling, which it has said could pose a threat to its business. U.S. District Judge amid Meta last year ruled Google holds an unlawful monopoly in online search and related advertising and is considering proposals to make the tech titan sell off its popular Chrome browser or share data that CEO Sundar Pichai says would allow competitors reverse engineer its search engine. Google has argued the U.S. Justice Department failed to prove that competition was harmed by its exclusive agreements with device makers such as Apple to preload Google as the default search engine on new devices. And that is the update for Google. For Meta, is also following the Google performance down by 0.60%. And the latest update on Meta is platforms on Tuesday said it has struck an agreement with Constellation Energy to keep one of the utilities reactors in Illinois operating for 20 years in the big tech company's first such deal with a nuclear power plant. Big tech companies are looking to secure electricity as U.S. power demand rises for the first time in 2 decades on demand from artificial intelligence and data centers. The deal will help keep open Constellation's Clinton Clean Energy Center, which may have been forced to shut after the expiry in 2027 of an Illinois ratepayer-funded zero-emissions credit program that awards benefits for generation of power virtually free of carbon emissions. It depends on the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission renewing the plant's license after Constellation's last year applied to renew its through 2047. And also we have update for Amazon. Internet retail is down by 0.46%, and the automotive update for Tesla is up by 0.46%. And that is the update within the U.S. market as the 4th June 2025. Please stay tuned with us as my colleague Amirul Aiman will bring the next update for ASEAN right after this break.
Jiwa SME Astro AWANI kembali ke Ipoh. Ayo koma jumpa teman di Aeon Mall Kinta City pada 28 dan 29 Jun. Naik taraf perniagaan anda dalam dunia SME bersama penaja utama Unify Business serta rakan strategik kami.
Dibawakan oleh penaja utama jelajah jiwa SME, Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda.
Aksi legasi kini mendominasi. Sepak takraw League kini kembali membara dalam musim penuh aksi yang menggemparkan. Dapatkan tiket anda sekarang. Pelanggan Astro juga boleh memenangi tiket eksklusif di aplikasi My Astro. Jangan lepaskan peluang keemasan ini. Kuasa Immunity X digunakan. Mereka adalah alfa yang berjaya ke separuh akhir.
Matlamat pertandingan ini 6 orang anak muda akan disatukan.
Pertukaran ahli kumpulan menjadi cabaran.
You nak dapatkan chemistry dalam kumpulan yang baru bukannya mudah.
You guys nampak macam performer profesional.
Awak kena kejar posisi nombor 1.
Kita nak awak menang tau.
Kegigihan dan semangat siapakah yang bakal menjadi ahli pertama? Big Stage Alpha, siaran langsung Ahad di Astro Ria dan Astro Go.
Hi, good morning. I'm Amirul Aiman and you're watching ASEAN Kita, a show where we explore the stories, challenges and opportunities that lies within the region. So with regional tensions simmering and superpower rivalry on the rise, ASEAN's role in defence cooperation is under sharper scrutiny than ever. Just days ago, ASEAN and the United States concluded a high-level defence ministers meeting promising deeper security ties. But what does that really mean, and how does Malaysia, as ASEAN chair, walk the tightrope between strengthening defence ties and maintaining neutrality? Joining us this morning is Dr. Lam Chung Wah, Senior Lecturer at University Malaya and an expert on regional security and defence strategy. Dr. Lam, thank you for being with us. Let's start with the headlines for the average viewer who doesn't follow every ASEAN statement. What, in plain terms, did the recent ASEAN-US Defence Ministers meeting actually shift in terms of real security outcomes for the region, Doctor?
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Yeah, thank you for having me here. In plain terms, actually, it means that ASEAN and the United States, they wanted to maintain and also to preserve their traditional defense links and also their cooperation and also friendship. And previously, we are all worried that the new administration, which is a Trump administration, he would not pay attention on ASEAN. So right now, after he sent his defense secretary to ASEAN to attend the Shangri-La dialogue and then had a meeting together with all the ministers, defense ministers from ASEAN, then I think we have cleared the doubt that yes, the United States, they are committed to have a cooperation with us. And I think we will still maintain the friendship and also the partnership together with them also. And according to the United States, the Secretary of Defense is Rick Up. He said that yes, he reaffirmed the U.S. Enduring commitment to working with ASEAN and also support for the central role of ASEAN. And also, he also mentioned that yes, the U.S. is also committed for a free and open Indo-Pacific guideline, and which is good news to us. And it means that in the future, next 4 years, we will work together. And the United States, they will not walk away from ASEAN.
And ASEAN always say it is non-aligned, but the truth is it's training more often with the US, doing more joint exercise and engaging in more military dialogues. At what point does hedging start looking like taking sides?
Yeah, definitely like what Secretary has said he talked about. He also mentioned, like I mentioned just now, and he talked about that they support the role of centrality of ASEAN, which means that they will respect and also will let ASEAN to lead the cooperation between the United States and also ASEAN. So in this case, it means that yes, they will not force ASEAN to choose a side. And second thing, in these circumstances, it means that ASEAN has room to maneuver between big powers. For example, like with China and also with Russia and also the EU. So when ASEAN can maintain their centrality, it means that we can choose by one side, we can cooperate with the US. On the other side, we can cooperate with China or with Russia and other big powers. And in this line, it means that we can maintain our hedging strategy. And as well as we can maintain our equidistance with big powers, means that for the United States, with the United States, we can maintain maybe kind of a distance with them, and with China, with a certain distance with them also. We are not pro-China, we are not pro the US, we are not pro-Russia. We are neutral in this sense. So since the US Secretary has said he recognized our centrality, it means that our hedging strategy can be maintained.
And Doctor, you mentioned that just now that ASEAN is not pro-China or US or pro-Russia, but perhaps do you see any members of the region or the bloc are already leaning a bit further than the rest?
Yeah, definitely. The Philippines is kind of, a daughter with this our position that they chose to side the US totally. But since the Philippines, they also committed to stay in ASEAN, and also they also adopted the ASEAN Declaration, and also which was just issued in Kuala Lumpur recently, and also with the ASEAN 2045 vision. And in this 2045 vision, it mentioned that all ASEAN member states are committed to maintain and preserve zone of peace, freedom, and neutrality, which was championed by Malaysia. Then in this sense, it means that even though Philippines, they wanted to align themselves with the US, they will still, respect the concept of Japan. And they will try to balance this pro-US and also ASEAN centrality policy. So I wish, and also I foresee that they will, align and also adjust their foreign affairs policies, things like that, to to suit the documents and also the declaration they committed to. And other than that, other ASEAN members, they are all committed to ASEAN vision, which is ASEAN 2045 vision, and also Kuala Lumpur Declaration.
Doctor, let's bring this closer to home as ASEAN chair. How can Malaysia gain tactically and diplomatically from stronger US defense ties without appearing to alienate Beijing?
Yeah, definitely. We have a strong cooperation ties with Beijing, and in this sense, we just concluded the ASEAN plus Gulf Cooperation Council as well as China Summit. And after the conclusion of this summit, we have issued one joint statement, and in this joint statement, we reaffirm our cooperation, and also we reaffirm our equidistance policy also, which means that we will not, pro-China, and also we will not pro-US, and also Beijing also respect our ASEAN centrality policy. So in this sense, Beijing is open to this cooperation, this type of cooperation, and it means that they will commit to further, deepening our defense ties and also economic ties also. So I don't foresee that our traditional cooperation partnership with US will jeopardize our cooperation with Beijing. I don't see in this sense. Yeah.
Doctor, we know that diplomacy often happens quietly so perhaps over the 6 months, what are behind the scenes diplomatic tools or outreach could Malaysia use to help keep both Washington and Beijing engaged while avoiding the accusation of being biased at the same time?
Okay, for example, like our Prime Minister, Dr. Suri Anwar Ibrahim, mentioned that even though the US, they did not send any high representative to attend our ASEAN meeting, our side is committed to meet the US side. And our Prime Minister, he mentioned that even the future meeting can be arranged according to the US, the available time. And we are also, able to go to Washington to meet with their president and also maybe their the high level officials. So it means that yes, we are committed to maintain this partnership with US. And also, in this sense, we also, in our Kuala Lumpur declaration and also ASEAN Vision 2045, we committed to preserve our AOIP, ASEAN open international and open Indo-Pacific policy. And in this kind of policy, which is to suit and also to align with the US and also Japan, their policy, also their foreign visions. So in this sense, we are committed to maintain this relationship with the US-led rules-based world order. And on the other hand, we also committed to further our cooperation with even Russia and also with China, and in a multi-spectrum of cooperation. So I think so far we have managed to engage big powers and also superpowers in a very, very balanced way, and also in a kind of healthy way also.
And Doctor, we keep hearing that ASEAN is only as strong as it is its secretariat, but it's often criticized as too weak to implement or enforce anything. Is it time for Malaysia to lead the call for a better funded or more empowered defense coordination unit inside the secretariat itself?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I echo with the calling, and definitely it is time to level up the capability and also the coordination capacity of our ASEAN Secretariat. And as far as I'm concerned, right now ASEAN Secretariat only staffed with 200 people, and definitely is not enough to carry out a lot of programs and also projects entrusted by ASEAN. And yes, but expanding the workforce, definitely it will consume and also to have more fund. And given the financial constraint by ASEAN, nearly all of us are not developed countries, and except for Singapore and also Brunei. And financial, budget will be the big obstacle for us to expand the ASEAN Secretariat. And second thing, actually, in our ASEAN, structure or architecture, we don't, empower ASEAN Secretariat to carry out more, work or other jobs. So if we wanted to expand ASEAN Secretariat, to let them to have more capacity to have more work to carry out programs, then we have to change our current ASEAN structure and also architecture. And other than that, we have to chip in more financial support to ASEAN Secretariat. But definitely it will need all of the members of ASEAN to have a consensus to elevate the ASEAN Secretariat capacity. I don't think it can be done within a short period. But if we have this vision and also this consensus, I think it can be done within a foreseeable near future. Definitely, if ASEAN Secretariat is empowered more, then we will have a more cohesion, and also our ASEAN members can integrate more and more. Definitely, I support this idea. And when it comes to a proper defense coordination, I think there is a little bit difficult to do that because defense coordination is considered as a high politics among all the members. And when it comes to high politics, means that it's quite sensitive. And we will want to maintain our sovereignty and also our autonomy in this sense. So it is more proper for us to take a stage step by step ways to evaluate our defense and coordination, because we have to have more confidence building, and also to reach a consensus, because without consensus ASEAN cannot move forward. So this and also this an ASEAN way also. Normally when we want to reach or to carry out a program and also one single decision, we will forge a decision and also consensus first. We will not force a decision on all the members. We will not do that. This is not an ASEAN way. So we have to follow our ASEAN way to carry out a proper defense coordination.
Well, that was Dr. Lam Chung Wah on ASEAN's growing defense dilemma. We still have a lot more to unpack, but we will take a short break and we'll be right back after this.
Daulat Tuanku.
Welcome back to ASEAN Kita. We're continuing our discussion with Dr. Lam Chung Wah on ASEAN's growing defense dilemma and how Malaysia, as chair, can help guide the region through tough, turbulent geopolitical waters. Now, Doctor, now to the South China Sea, still one of the biggest sources of tension within the region. What is the most practical and low-risk measure that ASEAN could take this year to reduce the chance of accidental conflict? Are we talking about shared sea lane agreements, or perhaps a real-time naval hotline, or regular joint patrols, Doctor?
All right, when it comes to the South China Sea dispute, definitely it is a very, very sensitive issue, and also we all member states, within ASEAN, we have different approaches. And however, there is one binding policy that we adhere to, which is South China Sea Declaration of Conduct, which was agreed upon in 2002. And this document had already set out the calculations and also what we can do on what we cannot do. So, however, this document or this declaration is not carried out properly. And also, not every one of the members, including China, including the Philippines, they respect this this document and also declaration fully. And for example, like Flashpoint, that a confrontation between China and also Philippines, it had already attracted a lot of observations and also a lot of attention from not only this region and also the all over the world. I can see that in this fresh, dispute or this confrontation, China is taking a very, very cautious step not to elevate or not to, elevate the holding, and they just maintain at using water cannon and not to use hot weapons. And if you use hot weapons, then the whole thing will escalate. So far from 2023 until 2025, and no single bullet was fired. So I think the whole thing is still in a manageable situation. So I think this situation will continue for a while, but we have to do more to maintain and also to preserve stability within this region. For example, like our host, you mentioned that she shared sea lanes and a real-time hotline. And actually, we already have a real-time hotline among all the members. And we have a real-time hotline among together between China and also with ASEAN. And this already set up within their navies and also their maritime enforcement agencies. And the problem is we have a big difference when it comes to sovereignty, when it comes to our sovereign claims. And sometimes we declare that this part belongs to us, that part belongs to you, and something like that. We have a big difference in this sense. And even we have a quarrel among our ASEAN member states also. So in this sense, we ASEAN, we have to find our own consensus first. Like previously I mentioned that the Philippines, their policy is to align with the US, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, they also committed to maintain ASEAN centrality and also ASEAN neutrality also. So for the Philippines, they have to, to implement what they are committed to, and also to also come back to ASEAN way to solve our problem, not to use the kind of maybe a more little bit aggressive manner. So means that they always use the kind of more provocative manners to provoke China. So in this sense, they have to take more practical steps, like to tone down the confrontation with China. And other than that, China also, they wanted to approach with the Philippines to talk and also discuss and to manage their dispute. So I do welcome them to have a more proper and also more peaceful discussion in this sense. But when it comes to ASEAN ourselves, definitely we are all committed to conclude the COC, Code of Conduct discussion and also negotiation. We all, including China, we are all committed. But the problem is on a certain terms, we are not having any consensus. So I think it will take time. It will take time to conclude the discussion of COC. When the COC Code of Conduct is concluded, I foresee that this COC will be a binding document, and it will bind all of the behaviors and also our activities in this the South China Sea.
That's on South China Sea, and we have also another issue, which is Myanmar, that continues to dominate ASEAN's internal political agenda. Doctor, do you believe that taking tougher actions against the junta would help ASEAN's overall credibility on defense and security, or perhaps would it divide the bloc even more?
All right. When it comes to Myanmar issue, when your host you mentioned that about we should take a tougher action on Myanmar, but then the question is what kind of steps we can take. For example, like do we want to take to sanction them, or do you want to to interfere their domestic politics? So when it comes to the first questions, do you want to sanction them? I think in ASEAN, nearly all of us, we are developing countries. Actually, we don't have many cards. I think in this sense, we don't have many cards to sanction them or to influence them also. And on the second questions, when it comes to interference, we all ASEAN members are committed not to interfere individual member states' domestic politics. So in this sense, these two questions already rule out the possibility of ASEAN to take a tougher action on Myanmar. But we ASEAN, we have our own way to solve this Myanmar issue, which is we try to bring two sides, I mean, from Myanmar junta and also PDD force to come together to have a discussion, to have to talk to each other. And currently, the both sides, I mean, those belligerent sides, both of them, they did not talk to each other. So the first thing, we want them to talk to each other. And also, for the time being, we ASEAN also had already put forward the 5-point consensus policy. So we call upon the both sides to adhere to a 5-point consensus. And this 5-point consensus should be the ground and also the basic to reach the peaceful solution and resolution for this crisis. And definitely, since ASEAN, we are not going to interfere their domestic politics, and it is going to take time. And currently, our Prime Minister, Dr. Seri Anwar Ibrahim, he had acted actively, and also he has also appointed previous our former Thailand Prime Minister, and also to help us to discuss and also to approach certain Myanmar leaders. So it's not going to to be solved within a days. And however, definitely we are taking steps on the right path.
Doctor, as we head toward the next summit, what's one obvious or perhaps tangible sign that we should look for that tells us that ASEAN defense cooperation is actually working, Doctor?
Yeah, definitely. Our ASEAN, maybe defense and also military cooperation, we need to enhance it. And currently, actually, we already conducted several multilateral defense and also military exercises together. And under the umbrella of ASEAN political and also security community, we are committed, to maintain this region in peaceful and also in a stability way. And however, like I mentioned a couple of times just now, that nearly all of the ASEAN members, they are developing countries, and our development stage is also different. So in this sense, if we want to have more military cooperation, means that we have to chip in more, to upgrade our military capacity. So in this sense, it means that we have to expand our defense budgets. Definitely, it will, have a little bit problem in every individual state. And like for example, like in Malaysia, actually our defense budget is not as big as others, and yearly, we just maintain our defense budget at around 17 or 18 billion of ringgit, and actually it already accounted for nearly 1% of our GDP. Definitely, it's not enough. We have to expand our defense budget to upgrade and also to keep up with the defense and modernization. But however, on the other hand, we have to also look into our financial constraints, and we want to have more guns or we want to have more butter, and these are the choices we have to make. And eventually, our country, we have decided to maintain our economy first, and also to stimulate our economic growth first. So in this sense, we decided not to put in so much financial budget in defense sector. So I think this is the same situation faced by other countries, especially against the backdrops of trade war and also the world uncertainties in economic development. So all of us, we will not put in so much resources in defense sector. And another matter is, currently we are all not facing a big military or traditional security threat. So if we are not facing a big or imminent security threat, means that we will not put more and more resources in our defense sector. So definitely, when it comes to have more military cooperation among our members, it will take time. Definitely, it will take time. And so far, on policy-wise, we are taking the right step that we will slowly enhance our defense coordination and also multilateral cooperation step by step, from joint military exercises to joint defense planning, or maybe to have a more and more coordination in near future.
Well, we'd like to thank Dr. Lam Chung Hua, Senior Lecturer at University Malaya and an expert on regional security and defense strategy, for helping us unpack what's at stake and ASEAN's evolving defense partnership and the delicate role that Malaysia must play in balancing strength with neutrality. That's all the time that we have on ASEAN Kita today. I'm Aiman. Thank you for watching and see you next time.